Today I'm going to show you some common data types inside of Python 3.6 and how to assign them to variables. So, what are data types? Data types are just data items inside of a programming language that help define a piece of data. And also they help with interaction between those data. So, the first data type that we have is an integer. As you can see here, we have the variable name int1 and we assign that to the integer 56,098. Now we can go ahead and pass that into the print function, and as you can see we get the result 56,098, just as we expected. Very, very simple things. Integers are going to be pretty common to deal with if you're going to be doing math operations, and thankfully Python allows math operations to be done very quickly. The next data type that we're going to be looking into is the float data type. Now the float is sort of like the integer, except it allows for decimal places. And as I said, the helpful thing about Python is that it makes math simple. As you can see, I just passed fl1 float1 plus int1 into the print function, and we can get a result that is 56,103.67. Very simple. Now the next data type is a string data type. Now, commonly you'll be working a lot with strings inside of Python. They're very, very common. So we can pass the string 1. As you can see, string 1 is equal to hello world. Now you can use these quotation marks here, single quotes, or you can even use double quotes. I just like the single because it's faster. But you can use double quotes, you can use single quotes, and you can pass that string 1 right into the print function, and you get the result, hello world. Now, another common operation is to add strings and integers together. But as you can see, if we pass both of that, we get an error. And as you can see, the type error is must be a string, not int. So this is where we get into a very interesting concept. How can we convert integers into strings? And it is very simple inside of Python. All we do is we surround the variable, or an integer if we want to change it into a string. We just surround what we want to change, and we change it right there, str. Now that is the string function. It basically converts anything that you pass into it into whatever you define right here. So for this example, we have a string, and we can run that, and then we get the result, hello world 56,098. And as you can see, there is no space in between here. That's common. Whenever you concatenate or whenever you add two data types together, there will not be a space in between. And sometimes it's helpful, sometimes it's not, but if you want a space in between, you can put another addition, you can put quotes in here, and you can add a space manually yourself. The next data type after that are bytes. So the byte type you will most commonly get if you're doing web scraping work or if you're working with HTML documents. Most of the time you'll get bytes. You'll get bytes back from the website. That's usually the type of data that you get. Or if you're working with files, it will most likely be using bytes. So we can print byte 1, and as you can see, inside of the console, what you get back is a byte type. And you can see in quotes you get whatever is in the bytes. Now the next data type are lists. Lists are also another common data type that you'll be using if you're working with lots of files, or if you're working with large sets of data. Usually if you're doing some data science or data manipulation, you'll usually want to use lists to store them. Now, the reason why lists are helpful is because they can grow. You can append things to lists. But first, what we're going to do is we're just going to print out the list. And as you can see, we get the exact same thing back. Now, the great thing about lists is you can iterate through them, and you can also select which item inside the list you want. For example, if you use these brackets and then put integer 0 you will get the first item in the list. It's 0 based. So whatever is here first, whatever the first item is, starts at 0. Then it increments up from 0. So it starts 0, 1, 2. And we can try that. 0, 1, we get world, and 2, we get dude. And what happens if we go outside of the list boundaries? Well, we get a list index out of range error. And now the other great thing about lists is that we can append to lists. Actually, if we take this out of the print and we just do list1 dot append, and we put another string inside of here, for example, we can put string 1. As you can see, this variable up here contains hello world. I just append, I use the append function of the list, or the append method of the list, and we just pass it in the string, and we can print that out and display it. And as you can see, we get another item appended to the end of the list. Very, very helpful. All right, now let's move on to tuples. And tuples are what we call immutable objects. There's another concept inside of Python called immutable versus mutable. Basically, mutable, I like to think of it as mutatable. You can change what's inside the list, for example, because lists are mutable. They are able to change. So, for example, if we just take this, actually, let's take it out of the function. If we take this and we set it equal to something like butter, we will get the replacement of hello for butter. So that is mutable. Lists are mutable or mutatable, whichever way you want to think about it. I like to think about it as mutatable. But tuples are another data type that are immutable. You cannot change the data type once it has been defined already once. So we can print out the tuple. And now you might be thinking, what is the point of tuples like this? Well, tuples are very helpful when you have some set of data that you want to compare to another set of data, and you don't want that data to change. You want that data to stay consistent throughout your entire code. And just like lists, we can call out specific positions inside of the tuple. So we can get 0, 1, we can get butter, jelly, and we can get the toast. Tuples are also iterables, or able to be iterated over. So you can go from one item to the next, and I will show you that in a future tutorial. The next data type are dictionaries. Now, dictionaries are also very helpful. And here you can see I combined actually two data types within the dictionary. So first let's print out the dictionary just to see if it works. And it does. In dictionaries, you can identify them by these brackets on the outside, these sharp brackets. And basically how dictionaries work is they work on a key and value system. Now what do I mean by that? Well, you can see here I have red as a string. Now what it is doing there, it is assigning red as a key to the dictionary. So red is the key, and this colon is just a spacer, and after the colon is whatever data type you want to put in. For example, here I have used a tuple, 255, 255, 255, basically RGB values. If you've ever worked in Photoshop, or if you ever worked with any other photos or anything like that, you will know that red, green, and blue values are used to define pixels inside of a screen. So I use tuples for those since I don't want them to change. So red is the key, and this tuple is the value that I'm going to get. And then this comma separates the rest of the keys and values. So we have key, value, key, value, key, value. And in order to recall specific keys and values, we can just simply pass them into these brackets after the dictionary right here. So for example, if I want the red value, there you go. You get the red 255, 255, 255. Now let's change this to something like 2. And we can call up the green key, and we get the value as an output. Dictionaries are also iterable, just like tuples and lists. And now the final common data type that you'll be seeing a lot of is the set data type. Inside of sets, we have to pass them lists. For set 1, we can display that, and we get that. So the unique thing about sets and what sets them apart from lists are that sets are unique. So you cannot have duplicates of one. So let's say, for example, you need unique hash values, or you need a lookup table that have unique values. You can use sets for that. As you can see, it only displays the first 8, the first 5, and the first 6. It does not display duplicates. Duplicates will be omitted from the results. And those are all of the common data types that you'll mostly be using inside of Python 3.6.